We,
We're ready to start when you're ready, Chairman.
okay. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Bletchley and Fenny Stratford Town Council full council meeting on the 23rd of February 2021. Excuse me, everybody, if I'm coughing a little bit. I've still got a bit of residual cough left over, so if I'm coughing over the air, I apologise now. Can we, as members, can we all put ourselves on mute? And if you are putting your hands up to come in on an item, then unmute yourself. We will be, Jill, our support manager, she will be timing the responses from councillors. We've got a lot on the agenda tonight, so hopefully we will get through it as quick as possible. But allowing all councillors to have a say, we'll be giving all councillors about 3 minutes to talk on only one subject. Also, I'll be mindful to say that we are streaming live on YouTube, so we just got to watch our conduct, and that'd be most appreciated. Thank you. Moving on to item 1 on the agenda. Any apologies for absences?
So we have apologies from councillors Kennedy and Hewitt.
Thank you very much. Moving on to item 2 on the agenda, declarations of any interest. Has anybody got any declarations of interest? I'd like to declare a declaration of interest on item 12. I will be going into the waiting room because this item could be something that my company might have an interest in. So I will be taking myself out of the meeting, and hopefully you guys voting another chair. I've asked Keith, Councillor Ely from Finance, to take over my position as chair if you guys want that to happen. So that's my declaration of interest anyway. Item 3 on the agenda, to approve the minutes of the last full council. If anybody's got anything to say, can you unmute yourself, or if you've got any objections to anything, can you unmute yourself and let us know? So it is the 26th of January 2021 full council meeting. Has anybody got anything to say on page 1, page 2, page 3, and page 4?
Chair, I think Councillor McDonald's got his hand up.
Councillor McDonald.
Yep. Just want to note that pardon me, item 177. At that point, I left the meeting due to connectivity issue, but it doesn't reflect there. So the phase bit 7B Newton Lees. So I left the meeting at that point, just to add to that.
Amend the minutes to add that, Councillor McDonald. Thank you for pointing that out.
Thank you.
Okay, so thank you very much for that. Item 4 on the agenda, any public speaking? Anybody from the public willing to speak?
Nobody's registered, Chair, no.
Thank you for that. So we're moving on to item 5 on the agenda, to note the minutes from the last committee meetings. So we've got the Human Resources committee meeting on the February the 9th, 2021. To note the minutes. Anybody got anything to say on that side of things? No. So that's noted. Moving on to the Finance Committee meeting on the 16th of February 2021. There is something on the minutes there that it was resolved that 15,000 to be taken from the property and premises funds to make an earmark reserves for support for this project over the next 3 years. and it is recommended that the town council should either, in the next 3 years, in partnership agreements with, as written. So,
Chairman, may I speak to that?
yeah.
I'm conscious that these minutes were only completed this afternoon and uploaded to the net this afternoon.
Yeah.
So councillors may not have had time to think about this recommendation. The papers were all published with the Finance Committee papers, but it's a matter for council to decide whether they want to consider that recommendation from the committee tonight, or if they prefer to consider it on the next occasion, because they've not had much time to look at it. It's a matter for councillors. Previously, the council had expressed a wish to enter into the agreement with Bletchley and Bedford and Milton Keynes Waterway on the community boat. But it's a matter for you whether you feel ready to pursue that at this stage or wait for the next meeting.
The next meeting of finance or the next meeting of full council?
The next meeting of full council.
Okay, so has any members got any or wish to speak on this item? Councillor Ely.
Yeah, I think we as councillors should be able to make a decision on this item tonight, Chair, without going further to another meeting.
Okay, thank you very much. Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Chairman. I was just going to echo what Keith said and just say further that we're very lucky here in Bletchley and Fenny Stratford that we are one of the parishes that has access to the Ouzel and also to the canal, the Grand Union Canal, which runs through our parish. And this is why we considered entering into a partnership agreement with the Waterways Trust. We've discussed tonight, supporting them to the level of £5,000 per year. The Finance Committee have earmarked a reserve to support that. I think that from my understanding, what the council would be doing tonight is reaffirming in principle that it wishes to continue to explore this partnership and this financial support, with a partnership agreement to be discussed by the officer team and brought back to full council for agreement. So that's what I would propose we do.
Is that a proposal? I'm going to let you come in, Delia.
That's the thing. That's correct. We did discuss a draft agreement at the Finance Committee, and the Finance Committee recommended the draft agreement. The thing that I'm conscious of is that although the draft agreement was made available with the papers for the Finance Committee, not everybody on full council may have read that agreement. And because the agenda only went up today, because the minutes of that meeting only went up today, I haven't circulated that draft agreement to all members. It may only have been seen by members of the Finance Committee. So, maybe that's why I'm suggesting that you may wish to defer, but on the other hand, the Finance Committee have scrutinised the partnership agreement and they are satisfied with it. It's a matter for council to decide whether to deal now or wait.
So can I open it up to any other councillors for a small quick debate, or are you quite happy to run with the fact that finance is already scrutinised and come back? Councillor Stevens.
Thank you. Just one question. So it's £5,000 a year. Where would this canal boat be moored, and when will it be in the vicinity for our community to use the facility?
The mooring will be at Campbell Park. That's where at the marina at Campbell Park, and it will travel on its journeys to Bletchley and specifically Fenny Stratford, and with our commitment to, we've already by giving a grant of 2,500. We've already secured a number of trips that would be available for people in our community. The partnership agreement did specify, I think, how many additional trips would be available. I think how much time the boat spends in our parish depends in part on what happens with the developments that are ongoing on the canal
Yeah.
side.
Thank you.
Gary Kenworthy, Councillor Kenworthy.
Thank you, Chair. I'm happy to proceed tonight based on the information from Councillor Kelly Wilson rather than defer to another meeting. Thank you, Chair.
So has anybody else got anything to say on this subject? Okay, so, Councillor Ely.
I'll second Ethan's proposal, Chair. Thank you.
Okay, so Councillor Wilson, can you just reiterate the proposal so that the clerk can write it down, please?
So we agreed to further the discussions with the Bedford and Milton Keynes Waterway Trust. We agree to we resolve to accept the recommendation from Finance Committee to secure the £15,000 funding over a 3-year period through an earmarked reserve, and we empower the clerk in consultation with the chair and vice chair to close that agreement.
And that's been seconded by Kenworthy.
Keith.
So can we all take a vote on that? Show of hands, all in favour? Oh. So can we do electronic hands? Can we? Because then, yeah. Keeps flapping around. Jill, can you see everybody?
I believe it's carried. I believe it's carried. Perhaps you'd like to ask Chairman if there are any votes against.
Is there any votes against? Can you blow your hands, please? Any votes against? Any abstentions?
It's carried.
Okay, that's that carried. Okay, so moving on to item 6 on the agenda, which is planning. So item 6.1, the land south of Princess Way and to the west of Albert Street, Bletchley. Do you wouldn't speak on this subject, please?
Yeah, this is just this is Albert. This is Bletchley View. It's the second time this application in this form has been in front of you, and it's a non-material amendment to materials, I believe. So it's not of great significance given everything else that's been determined already about this development.
And the plans have been granted already, hasn't it?
Yeah.
So anybody got anything to say on this one? No comment to make no comment? Yeah. So item 6.2, 5 North Gate, Bletchley, Milton Keynes.
And this is just a discharge.
It's just a discharge. So item 6.3, 9 Vicarage Road, Bletchley.
No, I'm sorry, that's not correct. That's not correct, what I said just then. It's an amendment to the description of the application.
I think the previous application paid has also been included in 5 North Gate, so it's actually page 37 of the pack that's 5 North Gate.
So it's a discharge of conditions.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's a discharge.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
What my notes said. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Could have trusted my notes.
Okay. So moving on to 6.3, which is 9 Vicarage Road, a two-story side and single-story rear extension, and removal of front conservatory and construct 2 bay windows. Has anybody got anything to say on this one? No comment? No comment. Thank you very much. Moving on to 6.4. No, I can't pronounce his name. Is it 38?
I can't pronounce it either, Chairman.
Curacao.
Curacao.
Oh, right.
Thank
so
you.
Newton Lee's. Again, anybody got any comments or anything to say about this? So this is a no comment. Thank you very much. Item 6.5, 54 Manor Road, Bletchley. Proposed single story front and side extension with new boundary treatments. Anybody got anything to say on this item? No comment. It's no comment. And that ends the planning side of things. That's good. Just give me 1 minute. So moving on to the item 7 on the agenda, which is to receive a report following the town deal board meeting on the 4th of February. Is to note, Deania, do you want to quickly say anything?
Just to say that I was unable to attend this meeting because of a technology failure. I couldn't get onto Teams on the day. I just couldn't get access to the meeting. So I have had an update from officers of Milton Keynes Council. I've written my report, and then this afternoon the draft minutes of that meeting became available. So I've circulated them all to members. I will do my best to answer questions if anybody has any.
Has anybody got any questions for the clerk at this moment in time? No. So okay. So moving on to item 8 is to consider a request from the community to adopt the policies on parking in Bletchley and to put forward a related recommendation to the town board. Dean, do you want to come in on this subject before I put it out to members?
Yes, and I hope that my report is clear. I'm happy to answer any questions. This proposal to request the town board to take a specific position on parking matters was developed in response to concerns from within the community about parking and the fact that this wasn't clear to all members of the community that the town deal was considering parking when it looked at each of its individual projects. It was put forward to the board on the last occasion, and the board were not against adopting the policy position that's being proposed by the two town councils. But they did make the point that it was important to, as important as it was to consider parking, it was also important to consider the green agenda and the commitment to carbon neutrality. So that's why the wording has been that's why the wording that is on page 60 for the proposal is there, and it's slightly different from the wording which I think is being considered, what was being has been recommended by the parking subcommittee at West Bletchley.
So I think that we should, from my understanding, have a policy to consider, and we need to consider tonight whether we go with this policy. If we don't go with this policy, then what policy should we have in respect of the communication to members of the public or any third parties? So I'll open it up to members for anybody to come in and discuss this item. Councillor Ely.
I think we should strongly support the decision required on page 60 of the report, and thereby really making the two councils in Bletchley take a supporting position, and I think it will be advisable to support that proposal. And I would I propose that we accept the wording contained in the decision section of the report. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Wilson.
Yeah, I was just going to say, totally support the proposal that is here. However, just to note that we have no control over what the franchise holder for Bletchley Railway Station can charge, and I think that this is one of the massive issues that causes a problem for residents in that area. Is people do not want to pay £6 per day at Bletchley Rail Station, and I think the only way that that is going to be fixed is by introducing parking restrictions. It's, you know, we're just not able to persuade the London North Western Railway to reduce their parking. I happen to know that other parking is actually more expensive than Bletchley at neighbouring stations.
Thank you for your comments, Councillor Wilson. Councillor Haynes.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Yeah, because I agree with Councillor Kelly Wilson, what he said, because I noticed that, and I also agree with Councillor Healy. But what you've got to realise, if there's a charge at the train station, then people, as the rest of Bletchley is free parking everywhere around Bletchley, except the old Sainsbury's car park, and everywhere is free. So people are not going to pay if they can park for free. So therefore, if there are going to be restrictions on parking, then it should be for visitors to Bletchley and residents of Bletchley, not people going off to London to work, you know, driving from Milton Keynes because it's a lot dearer than parking in Bletchley and hopping on a quick train to London, or when the East West Rail line up to Oxford or Cambridge, you know, and we will get the brunt of the poor parking and illegal parking to what there is now. And we got a nightmare now with illegal parking, you know. Okay. So I think we need to really take a close look at what we do and where we're going with this. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Councillor Stevens.
Yeah, I think it's just a clarity, really. I think that this £6 is really for to catch the commuters. I think there's a lower rate at the weekends at the train station.
Okay, thank you very much for your comments, Councillor Hume.
Clark, can you, I'm actually supportive of this policy. I mean, I probably wouldn't have necessarily used the full examples in there, but yeah, the parking provision should be adequate for the needs and for the residential needs, given the location that it is. Can you just provide some clarity? So the future policy bit, who is that? Has that actually come from West Bletchley Council, or is this a summary of the BPARA representative of West Bletchley Parking Subcommittee?
The statement below my signature is a statement from the BPARA representative. The wording in the report is my wording. It is not the same wording as the wording that has been put forward by West Bletchley Council's Parking Committee. It's amended in the light of the comments that were made by the members of the board at the town deal meeting that I didn't attend, but which were reported back to me. So the wording is different. If you look up on page 59, it says it is recommended and it's underscored in the bottom paragraph. That's the wording that is being put forward to West Bletchley Council tonight. The wording I'm putting forward is the wording that is below in the second paragraph on page 60, which is just slightly different. It's possible that West Bletchley Council may adopt a similar wording to the one I've put forward in the light of the comments from the town deal board. But that's the wording that will go on, that is on their agenda, because that's what their parking subcommittee recommended to them.
Okay, so we've got a proposal from Councillor Ely. Hello, Councillor Ely. So your proposal, and can we have a seconder? Councillor Hume to second. All in favour of adopting this new policy? Show of hands, please. Yes, Councillor.
I can't see voting is Councillor Rohim.
No, he has
Yeah.
just Keith. Keith hasn't voted. Oh,
He's
Oh,
voted.
Keith was a proposer
Yeah,
and he has
proposer.
voted. Yeah.
that's
So
it. That's all of them.
That's unanimous, I think it is. Any against? Any abstentions? Okay, so that's gone through. Thank you very much. So we go to item 9 on the agenda, is to consider and adopt the revised community consultation policy and communication plan. Do you want to come in on this, please?
Yes, just briefly, members recall that we've recently had some work commissioned from Breakthrough Communications. They did a survey of our communications and an analysis of them and put forward the communications strategy for us. As a consequence of that, I've revised our our community engagement policy, and Jill has pulled out of the report that was produced by Breakthrough Communications and adopted by this town council, an action plan which specifies the actions which we're going to take over the next year to as recommended and adopted by council on the back of the Breakthrough Communications plan. The communications policy, the community engagement policy, is not hugely different. I've just tried to make it clearer and tried to sort of really pin down the importance of being absolutely clear about what consultation is for, and not doing consultation if we're not going to have regard to the outcome, or if we do choose an alternative course of action after consultation, being clear about how we'll explain why that is to the community. So I've just tried to clarify that. So it's a matter for you now to consider whether you wish to adopt it.
So can I open this up to all councillors to have a say? Has anybody got anything to say about adopting these new community engagement policy? Anybody got anything to say? So are we quite? Oh, hang on a minute, Councillor Hume.
Yeah, just a couple of comments. I think it's a big improvement, and I think it clarifies quite a number of different issues. The one thing that I would ask is, can we just do a quick can officers do a quick read of it to check that it is what's the word I'm looking for? Proofread. Because I've spotted in the second line
Yes.
on the first paragraph there's no there. So apart from proofreading, yeah, I think we should be accepting this.
Anybody else? No. So are we quite happy to adopt the revised community consultation policy? All in favour? Show of hands. Anybody against? Can you put your hands down now? Anybody against? Any abstentions? So we've got, oh, sorry, hang on a minute. So is anybody abstentions? 3?
3 abstentions.
3 abstentions.
Okay, can you put your hands down for me? Thank you. So is that carried?
Yeah, that's carried.
That's carried. Thank you.
So you now just need to look at the communications plan and see if you're happy to adopt that also.
So we've done the communication consultation policy, and now we've got to do is it the communication plan?
Yeah, from page 69 onwards. Page 73.
Has anybody got anything to say about the communication plan? Councillor Wilson. You're on mute still, sorry.
Sorry. I think this is a really good document. I think the only thing that I would just want to add to the calendar that appears on 2021, sorry, on page 73, is I think it would be good to think about all of the diverse members of our community that we have, and actually to, you know, recognise throughout that year that there are some really important dates to different parts of our community, just to make sure that as well as we kind of are thinking about the impact that we're having on the community, we're also thinking about the things that are important to the individual sectors of the community. So, for instance, you know, March may be Black History Month. So, is there anything that we're wanting to kind of engage around that? You know, is there anything that we're wanting to do for Pride during May and June? Is there anything that we want to do for Eid, Diwali, all of these things? So, I think that would be, we've got a really good timetable calendar here. It would be good just to kind of note when these key things are.
And bring it back to council with those included.
No, I'm fine with it. It's just an addition. I think for me these are fixed dates, and actually I just think it will add to this to the richness of this document. But I don't feel that I need to see it again.
Okay. So have you got any proposals to anybody else want to add to what Councillor Kelly Wilson has said? Councillor Hume.
I think we should propose that we adopt this, and with the addition of those states suggestions that Councillor Kelly Wilson has put forward. So yeah, if yours is a proposal, Ethan, mine's a second or whatever.
Okay, so all in favour of adopting this agreement, please raise your hand. That's everybody. Anybody against?
I don't think.
Any abstentions?
I think it was unanimous vote.
Yeah. Thank you very much for that, members. Okay. To item 10 on the agenda. To approve arrangement for public consultation on 4 gateway signs to be provided using the Community Infrastructure Fund. There's an update report on the gateway signs. Dealey, do you want to start this off, please?
Bearing in mind that you've just adopted the new communications policy, that does specify that all communications must be approved either by a committee or an officer. And as we're about to start on this piece of I'm tripping over my words. All consultations need to be approved by a committee, council or an officer. And as this, we're just about to start on this gateways consultation about the 4 gateways that are already agreed and are going to be funded using the Community Infrastructure Fund matched funding from Milton Keynes Council. I just thought it would be prudent to let the rest of the council know that this is what's planned. This piece of consultation work is planned. And also to draw to your attention the fact that the wordings that were put forward by the working group for the new signs included some wording for the Fanny Stratford sign. And unfortunately, Milton Keynes Council have come back and said that wording is not acceptable because it's too long and too distracting for motorists. Highways wouldn't approve of anything. They really prefer a slogan that's between 4 and 6 words long. So really what I'm looking for from council is approval for us to go ahead with this consultation, and any suggestions about whether we put forward an alternative proposal about the sign for Fenny Stratford, or whether we just ask people what slogan they would like to see on the Fenny Stratford sign.
Yes, can I open this up to members? Any Anybody want to come in on this? Councillor Ely?
Yeah, I just hope that we're not consulting on the Bletchley signs. All the signs in Bletchley, both here and in West Bletchley, are all the same, with a green background, yellow wording. And to think of that one sign will be different to all the others, I don't think is very sensible. So we already have an agreed position on that. So I hope we wouldn't consult on that. But hopefully we will consult on the district signs, if you like, the Newton Lees and Fenny Stratford, which can be different. And then they could all be the same, but different to the green and yellow. That would be my position, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Wilson?
So there was a previous proposal put forward to the group that we did replace all of them. And obviously that's not what we're discussing tonight. But I think that our guess is that the existing signs have been up for 15 years. And I think that they are, we want the community, one of the things that community say to us all the time is that they want to take pride in our community. How our community looks is really important to them. So I am in favour of these signs. I don't think that they should be reflecting what we did 15 years ago. I think that we should be thinking about the communities that we have today, and this is something that we should be consulting the community on today. So for me, I think that I can see that we're going to explain the kind of differences and ask for the community's opinion on whether we should have a new design and ask for opinions on the wording. And I think that we should be as open as we can.
I think that from the working group, we was going to come back to full council in March with a God, what is it? It's gone.
Presentation.
Yeah, sorry. We was going to come back to full council with a full presentation on the signs, the look, the feel. I think that we have to discuss the wording for Fenny Stratford, as Milton Keynes has possibly already agreed the home of the code breakers for Bletchley, Newton Lees, formerly Newton Lees, Newton Longville Brickworks. I see there's a couple of ticks there, but then obviously the Fenny Stratford sign is a bit too long, so we need to go out to consultation, or we need to find some other wording for Fenny Stratford. I do agree with Councillor Wilson that we have to be a progressive council. We have to think about the future of our parish. It's getting bigger, it's expanding. There is a massive diversity in our area, and we have to move with the signs as well. So I think that, I'll open it up to other members to speak. But yeah, I would wait for the presentation. I can't hear you.
Sorry, Chairman. One more thing that I forgot. The councillor who was on the working group that represented Fenny Stratford isn't here tonight, and I think he would want it to be made clear that it's believed that some of the Fenny Stratford, some of the Bletchley signs are in the wrong place, and you're actually welcomed to Bletchley when you are actually coming into Fenny Stratford, and that should form part of the consultation.
The positions of my understanding is that the position of the new sign for Fenny Stratford, which has been agreed by council, has already been agreed by council as part of the community infrastructure application, and the position of the Fenny Stratford, that was one of the things that we were trying to remedy with our application to the Community Infrastructure Fund, was to put the Fenny Stratford sign in the right place, and I believe that it is in the right place. The consultation will show where the sign is, so people will have the opportunity to still comment on it. So yes, but we think we've got it in the right place now.
Okay, is there any other councillors got any comments regarding Councillor Stevens?
I support Councillor Kelly Wilson in what he was saying there, and also that we need to look at the Fenny Stratford plate itself. The other thing is, if we're coming back to council in March, do we have enough time then to meet that deadline for Milton Keynes Council?
I think we do, as long as we can get the consultation done really quickly, which is why I'm suggesting an electronic consultation only on this occasion, because we really need to try and get that out as soon as possible.
You seem to be zoning in and zoning out. We couldn't hear half of what you said.
Don't know why that is, Chairman. I haven't done anything different. My microphone's in exactly the same place.
Yeah, can you start that again, please?
Yes, I think I've suggested an electronic consultation only so that we can do the consultation as quickly as possible. And then if we come back in March, we can be ready for Milton Keynes Council to go ahead at the beginning of April.
Thank you.
Councillor Kenworthy.
Thank you, Chair. Whoops, I can't see you at the moment. We've disappeared. Chair, if we need one for Fenny Stratford, can I suggest the Roman town name? Because that Fenny Stratford, the Vickers, was Magnovian, and that is just one word, and it's very simple and it makes it distinctive. And previously, more than a year ago, when we were meeting open, Will did a paper when we were down at the library saying the sign was 40 metres incorrect. Will had done all the work in that. So the councillors who are newer probably weren't fully aware that matter had got resolved by Will of where it was supposed to be. So anyway, something very snappy, the Roman name for the Vickers, which means county.
So yeah, that's very good. So Councillor Ely, one more go.
One final point, Chair. Magnovinium is not in the original Fenny Stratford area. It is now, because the boundary was moved when the boundary was moved to the A5. But prior to that, and prior to the original Fenny, Magnovinium, the old Roman town, is in fact on Dropshort Farm, which was originally outside Fenny Stratford. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Right. So do we, Councillor Wilson, did you want to put a proposal together to approve the consultation agreement?
I propose
Can I
that.
just come in on that again, that point about the boundary?
Well, we can, not at this present moment in time, quite quickly then.
No, quite quickly. I mentioned the name Sir Mortal Wheeler, who was the consultant. So the whole footprint of Milton Keynes is actually based on the Roman boundaries. That was the original idea of the whole of the Milton Keynes development, and he was the consulting archaeologist. And so the boundary of Milton Keynes was the Roman boundary. That was the original proposal. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Councillor Wilson. Councillor Wilson.
I propose that we consult with the public using an electronic method and for a period which allows us to come back and use the information in a presentation to the next full council.
Can we have a second that? Councillor Stevens is seconding. All in favour? All in favour? Anybody against? And any abstentions? So that's one against, and Michael McDonald, one abstention for Michael McDonald.
Still carried.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to item 11 on the agenda. To receive a report concerning Albert Street toilets. Yeah, to receive report, yeah. Sorry?
Page 77, Chair.
Page 77, to receive a report concerning Albert Street toilets. Do you want to kick off on this one?
Well, it's quite a long report, and I've tried to provide some background information to enable us to move forward from the position we find ourselves in.
Yeah.
At the bottom of page 80, there are there's a sort of indication of the guidance that I'm looking for from members. I would just like to say this is not an exhaustive report. It's just a preliminary report which reminds members of the current usage of the toilets, or from our last measuring exercise, which was pre-COVID, obviously. And it puts forward some options for you to consider, but it's by no means comprehensive. I'm looking for guidance on where you want to go next, please.
Okay, so I mean, we know Albert Street toilets has been on the agenda for, you know, off and on, and it is a bit of a contentious issue as people have different viewpoints on this subject. The one thing that I would say is that with the East-West Rail Line and Milton Keynes Council, we've just got to remember that we don't own the building, that we look after it. We have to fix, revamp and repair it. We have done for some time. With the fact that Milton Keynes Council still own the building and nobody really knows exactly when they might want that building back, is a concern. It's also a concern from my perspective on the amount of money that Bletchley Fenny Stratford Town Council use to keep fixing the toilets, with all the different issues surrounding the toilets. That's got to be taken into consideration. Also, we've also been through the fact that we need to get clear guidance from other third parties like West Bletchley, the bus depot, the other businesses in the area, whether they would contribute to the fixing of the toilets and the upkeep of the toilets. So we've got quite a few things that we need to consider, and I shall open it up to members. Does anybody would like to speak? Councillor Wilson.
Hello. So thank you for the really comprehensive report. Don't really want to focus on too much on how often it's used, but we know it is used a lot. My issue is with the cost. The current costs are 5% of our total budget, and in excess of that. And I think that we need to take some action to reverse that. I think it was pleasing to see some information in the report around what we could do to change the model to have less of an impact on the council. I think that I actually favour investing in a new toilet block as one of the items has been suggested in the report, and I think that we should perhaps look at where might be an alternative site and actually how much that would cost our council. My reason for kind of wanting to do that is I think the existing building is a money pit, and we will just continue to pour lots and lots and lots of money into it. And I think that over the next 5 to 6 years, we'll probably spend in cash what we could have got a new building for, which would have less maintenance issues and actually would be built for today. So that's what I favour exploring at this point.
Thank you very much for that, Councillor Wilson. Councillor Stevens.
Thank you, Chair. The angle I'm looking at is I agree with Councillor Kelly Wilson that thinking all the town plan, regeneration, you've got the East-West Railway Line, you know, to have some newish lavatories in town would be really good. Are there any options where they could be sort of co-funded with MK Council as well? You know, because if the existing toilets are, you know, becoming, you know, a money pit, is there opportunities to explore more co-funding and, you know, get charges for, you know, for brand new toilets so these sort of pay for themselves?
We'd need to speak with officers from Milton Keynes Council to take that forward and see what their position was. To my knowledge, they don't fund any public toilets at the moment. But I mean, I stand to be corrected, but to my knowledge, they don't. But it's definitely something that we could discuss with them.
Councillor Rohit, you're still on mute.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Yeah, I was just going to say we need to have a bit more further conversation with Milton Keynes Council to see what their views are. But I support Kelly Wilson view has said, and I think it's a great achievement for the British Council to have something placed for the future as well as for the later development as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Hume.
I think Ron was before me, so I'll let them.
No,
first.
that's fine. That's fine. You're first on the list. Councillor Hume.
Okay, no, that's fine. I think actually I'm support. I mean, whilst I think I agree with Councillor Kelly Wilson's points, I think I might have disagreed with the approach that we took in the budget. But I think generally I agree with the points that actually we do need to be really considering how this is done. There's some things that I would probably suggest that we do need to consider, and one of them is about the capacity of the toilets. So if we replace it with just 2 cubicles, is that sufficient for the needs? If you have lots of people, if you have a long line of people waiting outside, that may also be problematic and not so great. So we just need to think about the capacity and just about the peak periods of usage to make sure that we've got sufficient cover for that. And I would want to see that come forward. The other thing is I think we have got an opportunity to feed this in with maybe some of the town's funds work as they begin to begin to see the plans come forward around Queensway and the consultation on that. So actually, I wonder whether we need to come up with a few words to put into the town's fund around toilets in the town centre, because actually I think that's probably going to be the opportunity of where we understand where it should go once those pieces are started together, and we can work with Milton Keynes Council and the town's fund board to do that. It may be that actually that exists inside the building. These could replace it if you demolish the building or something like that. And then I think there's going to be more chance of getting money through the towns, through asking for something through the town's fund than there is going to Milton Keynes Council, which is under significant financial pressures at the moment. And actually, there's probably more of a time with the town's fund.
Okay, Councillor Weimer.
Hi.
I hope I pronounced your name all right.
No, I agree with what everybody said, to be honest, and I especially like to have the if we really could. But I just think mainly we needed to have a vote and decide on about the 5,000, the amount that's pending, the pending amount, because you can't just let the roof thing keep going. I think we need to get that decision done tonight, because I know what it's like in a youth community, seeing that it's left and left and left, and it will just get worse and worse. So I just think we really need to mainly concentrate on that pending check that needs to be done and getting that fixed, if we're going to do that or not. That was it. Sure.
Okay, Councillor Haynes.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I agree, because obviously it's an old building and we don't know what they're going to do with it. It's obvious what people said, and we all know that councils don't pay for toilets like Milton Keynes Council. But what we could do is go down the road, is if we're going to the regeneration they're going to do is say you put the building in and we'll do the rest. As long as they put the building in, and then we can do the rest, and we can fund money from West Fletcher, the bus station, and the bus people and everybody else. You know, there's all different roads to go down. Rather than just say, oh, shut the toilets down, that's it, save money. You know, there's loads of different roads we can go down with a bit of thought behind it. And no one needs to be without a public toilet. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. I mean, there are a lot of issues surrounding the toilets. I mean, can I just throw something on the table for people to consider? What if we was to go down the road of making the public pay to go for a pee? You know, should we put in a system in where they pay to go? So that might lessen the amount of impact it will have on our council and our budget. Is that something that we're mindful to do in respect of if we are going to keep the hold of the toilets, which is a money pit, as we've all discovered? How can we offset the amount of money that we are actually funding the toilets by ourselves at the moment with a small donation from West Bletchley? how do we, I mean, there's a lot of money in our budget. How do we lessen the impact on Bletchley and Fenny Stratford Town Council in respect of the amount of money that we have to spend to upkeep them toilets every year? And be mindful of the fact that Milton Keynes can take back that toilets at any time. We don't own the toilets. So we keep fixing it because we know the public need it, want it, but it's getting, for me anyway, it's just a money pit, if you know what I mean. So we need to do something about having to shell out the amount of money we shell out every year to upkeep the toilets. And we have to make sure that we've got systems in place to manage the toilets as well. Do you know what I mean? So I think the first person was Councillor Hume.
Yeah, I think this is why we're talking about some of these other options of these cubicles that are potentially in the report. I also wonder whether if there's going to be a transport hub as part of the work around the town centre. Actually, toilets may well feature in that, and that may well bring in that may well do the job in a coordinated fashion. I think in terms of charging, I'm not supportive of charging. The organisation that I work for has previously charged for toilets, and actually there's a very negative feel to that, and actually it becomes a problem if you don't have the change or you don't have a contactless card. It means it's less accessible, and that's particularly a problem if you given some of the needs of the people who are more likely to need these toilets. I think in terms of actually that £5,000 for that repair, actually I wonder, and I think I'm going to make a proposal on this, is that actually we do it, but we use the money that we will get, we cover it with the money that we will get back via the refund that we will get for the rates for the year 2020 to 2021. Because we're going to get that money back. We've kind of already budgeted for it to be used on the toilets. Let's just use it to repair it. So at least we've got something to get us. I thought, yeah, it would be great to have it back in the balance, but actually I think we do need to repair it whilst we're in this limbo stage.
Okay, Councillor, I think it's Wilson next. Councillor Wilson.
Sorry, just to come back on the toilets. I think that the organisation that we've obviously been talking to has probably got a lot of management information on how toilets are used and what the appropriate number might be for the number of uses that we have. For me, also, what I want to see is future cost reduction at a state level, and I think having a capital investment in the new toilets is going to do that. The current toilets were put there, I don't even know when, but I know that we've had probably to have to replace the furniture within the toilets quite a few times whilst I've been a councillor. So I think that having a building which is made for today's modern, it's having the kind of individual cubicles which are directly accessed from the street, I think adds to the security, adds to there being not being used for nefarious practices, and it would be good to get some further information on what that could look like.
Okay, thank you very much. Councillor MacDonald.
Thank you. If you can hear me.
Yes.
No.
Sorry, Councillor MacDonald, you're phasing.
Hello?
Yeah, you're back. You're back.
I'm back. I'm back. Okay, I mean, obviously, yeah, I've just had that warning again. We basically know that.
We can hear you.
Can you?
Yeah.
Okay. Right. That building is in need of extensive work if it is going to be used for anything. It would be nice to have some facilities, I think. And I think it is a good idea if we look down the route of what new facilities we can offer. I'm going to go now before I lose.
Councillor Aisha.
I was going to suggest, isn't there alternatives that we could possibly approach some of the local businesses to make some contribution towards the toilets? Because majority of the people that are using it are people from local businesses, local cafes, or public who come into Bletchley, ask some of the local businesses perhaps, and say it's on the verge of going, and if we want to keep them, then we need contributions from the local businesses to keep them there.
I think this is where the consultation will come into play. That we'll go and speak to different businesses, other third-party investors, West Bletchley. Do you know what I mean? So I think the consultation will cover. I think in other towns in London, there's other places like Watford. There's places in Northampton. They have a fixed charge of 20p, or I think it's 30p to use the toilet, and it does work. Those who need it will use it, and those who have the change will go. I can understand what Ed's saying. In case of an emergency, somebody needs to use the toilet and they don't have those facilities. There's probably ways around it. We can manage that in some ways. Maybe have a change machine there or something. I don't know, but I can see why Ed's saying not to charge, but at the same time, it needs to be managed. We don't have the funds to manage it long term. And if we charge, that could be some of the cost towards the management of the toilets, because, every single town does need a public toilet, but for free, it's paying people, to keep up with this that we can't afford to keep up. Oh, thank you very much for that. Gary Kenworthy and then Councillor Stevens.
Thank you, Chair. As Councillor Kelly Wilson has been pointing out, this subject's been going on for 5 years. It's a money pit. We're throwing capital expenditure at it. We keep going with, what about asking West Bletchley? What about asking the bus company? What about asking the local shopkeepers? This has been done on so many occasions, and it just spins round in circles. We should be following the proposals of the last few years with Councillor Kelly Wilson, that we should get on with providing new, more easily maintainable toilets, because we're making very little progress at all. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Stevens.
Yeah, one last point from me is, can there be other options? So going back to what Ed was saying, so if someone's hasn't got any change, I personally think, there's a problem that if no one's got any money, they can probably do their business outside against a wall or something like that, which is unhealthy. Could sort of other public buildings be open, like the library, for example, for those people as an option, or a community levy you give to the businesses who've got toilets? So can we fund them as an alternative for these people who haven't got any change or can't get access to the loos?
If I can just step in there, Chair. The library, I don't think, will provide public toilets. They have one toilet which they allow library users to use in an emergency. It's not available to everybody. It's just there for an emergency, and that's because of the access arrangements that there are in the library. With regard to a community toilet scheme, that is something that has been proposed before, although we haven't progressed it. I have had experience of working with a community toilet scheme in a different community. There are benefits to it, but there are also disadvantages. A lot of the people who rely on public toilets for various reasons don't feel able to use a community toilet scheme in quite the same way. So there are some benefits, but it needs quite a bit of work. And if that's something you want me to explore, then that's something that we can explore.
Okay. Thank you very much for that. Councillor Keith Ely.
Thank you, Chair. I have been very quiet on this item, but as you know, I'm totally opposed to the provision of these conveniences, purely on the basis of cost. Members are talking about the provision of a different alternative, these new buildings. One of the problems in central Bletchley is the accessibility of land. And I can't think of any spare land that's offhand that someone wants to sell or give us on a long-term lease. Certainly Milton Keynes Council won't give us a lease where we are, purely on the basis that at some stage that land will be developed, and therefore they will presumably, almost certainly, want that building down and the public convenience is gone. You therefore have got to find somewhere else which is as convenient as these toilets are elsewhere in the town centre, and I can't off the top of my head think of anywhere where that exists. Also, these proposals, they don't seem to include the suggestion that alternative public provision could be provided within an existing public building where they currently exist and in fact are open to the public, although not advertised as open to the public. And I think that rather than go out and spend all this money, and it is a lot of money, whatever solution you come up with, before you examine these other alternatives. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Weimer, this is the last time we're going to go around because we've gone round already. Councillor Weimer.
Sorry, I just want to second Ed's proposal, that's all.
Thank you. Councillor Wilson, last time, please. Thank you.
Did Ed make a proposal?
I did on the repair.
On the repair.
So I propose to amend the proposal, which obviously let's kind of get the repair done. Let's consult on all of these opportunities with the community. Do they prefer that we continue to spend this money on these toilets, which we believe is financially unsustainable? Do they agree with us that actually, if we are going to have some provision, that we should invest so we can reduce our costs in the future? Or as Councillor Stevens said, should we be looking at taking that money and pushing it towards the businesses so that they can have a community toilet scheme in there? So let's ask all of the community what they think that we should be doing going forward. And of course, what I think also one of those options needs to be, as Keith says, which is we close the toilets.
So from a point, I agree with you actually, Ethan. I think those points should be part of a consultation and maybe some wider questions, and I'm sure the officers will come up with stuff. I just think in terms of my original proposal, which was about just a repair and where that funds would come from, is not necessarily an amendment, it's kind of a new proposal. On a technicality, so I've read the standing orders and I understand them.
So perhaps, Chairman, we could vote on Councillor Hume's proposal first, and then we could vote on Councillor Kelly Wilson's proposal.
And Councillor Kelly Wilson, I will second your proposal.
Thank you very much. Just quickly, because I'm mindful that Councillor Aisha, she's going to be leaving us anytime soon. Did you want to come in, Councillor?
I just wanted to give my apologies and say that I'm going. So good night.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your contribution tonight. So can we take a vote on Councillor Hume's proposal? All in favour? Right. Anybody against?
8 in favour.
Hang on a minute. Can we all put our hands down, please? And then anybody against? Any abstentions? Did you get that, Jill?
No, can I make a suggestion? As co-host and host, we are able to lower all the hands. And I wonder whether it might be better as when we allow Delia and I to lower the hands before the next vote is asked for.
Yeah, well, that's fine. I mean,
it's difficult to go up and down sometimes. So we think it's carried.
I think it's carried, but you might want to take the vote again, Chairman.
Can we just show of hands on Councillor Hume's proposal? Show of hands again. And then Jill, can you take them down once we've done that?
Okay.
That is carried.
Right, can you take them down now for me, please?
Yep, down.
And then anybody against?
Councillor Ely.
Councillor, and then the abstentions.
Councillor Kenworthy and Councillor Roham. And Councillor Imran.
Okay. Thank you very much for that.
Carried.
Okay. Oh yes, sorry. I nearly forgot.
So
Can we
I've got Councillor Kelly Wilson's
can we
proposal.
vote on Councillor Kelly Wilson's proposal?
Okay, I propose that we hold a public consultation on the provision of the toilets. I'm sure that the officers will come up with a suitable form of words, but I think within that we should be considering refurbishing the existing toilets and giving the information about the public, the cost of those toilets going forward. Information why the council feels that is unsustainable and has taken the budget action that it has. 2, do we re-provide the toilets elsewhere? And that re-provision could be for a new building, if we can find somewhere to put it, or through working with the local businesses to have a community toilet scheme. I also think that we need to consult on having no toilets at all. And I'm happy to take any other suggestions from any other council.
Well, it's a proposal, and we had a seconder for that, Councillor
Hume.
Yeah, the only thing I would just add is if anyone has any additional questions that they think may well be suitable in it, just refer it to officers after as well, and for the officers to weigh that up whether it's appropriate for the method.
I will amend the proposal so that if the officers believe that another councillor gives an appropriate addition to the consultation, that they can put that forward.
Yeah. Okay. Can we take all hands down at the moment, please?
I think, does anyone want to speak on it?
I was going to say, did Councillor O'Rourke wish to speak? No.
No, I didn't think he did.
Okay.
So have we got a seconder for that?
Yes.
So all in favour? I think that's it.
Carried.
So that's all in favour. So can you take
Everyone's in favour.
Yeah, so can you take the hands down? Anybody
Yeah.
against? Anybody against? That's one. And then any abstentions?
And Councillor Haynes. I think
That's
that was
it.
an abstention, was it, Councillor Haynes?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's carried.
So we're moving on to item 12 on the agenda, and at this point I'm going to be bowing out of the meeting as I suggested earlier on, and I will hand it over to the clerk to appoint a new chair for this item.
Yes, we'll put you in the waiting room and bring you back afterwards.
Okay.
So, councillors, are you minded to appoint Councillor Ely to chair this item, or do you have another proposal?
No, Councillor Ely will be fine. I'll second that for Councillor Ely. I'll second that for Councillor Ely.
Is everyone happy with that, please?
Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Ely.
Thank you, members. The item 12, which is the use of COVID Marshall funding. You've got the report, which I think is extremely comprehensive, and for that, thank you very much, Delia. Did you want to come in and start this discussion, Delia, with some prior information?
Yeah, I mean, since I wrote the report, two things have happened. We've had the roadmap announced by the Prime Minister, which helps us to understand the route out of the pandemic and the likely stages of the activities that are going to happen over the next few months. And I have also had a further meeting with representatives of public health and the CCG to talk about additional ways in which the funding could be used. And some quite good suggestions were made at that meeting about work we could do, which would be focused around the different festivals that we have coming up in the next few months and weeks. So we've got Easter, we've got Ramadan, we've got other festivals in the celebrated by Sikh and Hindu people, and would it be possible for us to do some messaging around those holidays and festivals that would appeal to different parts of the community? And I thought that was a very good suggestion, actually, because I think that we will need to be trying to guide the community as it emerges and encourage them to continue to comply with regulations. But I'm not in a position to put a fully worked out proposal on that basis to you tonight, because that was the outcome of yesterday's meeting. And so the options that are in the report are still on the table. And I think what would be helpful for me would be to have guidance from council about, you know, how you feel about this funding, and perhaps a consideration that when you've given an indication that perhaps we could look at this again at the Finance Committee on the 9th of March, when we'll be in a better position to make some definite decisions.
Thank you, Delia. Yeah, one of the points for your thoughts is that if you have ideas to put forward, put them forward tonight, and then if you like, they could then be put formally to the Finance Committee, the next Finance Committee, and you could delegate the authority to make a decision to the Finance Committee. Alternatively, you can make a decision tonight, but it's for you to decide. The options, as you can see within the report, the one that I tend to favour is the roving marshals, where we can cover all the hotspots of the parish on a moving basis, wherever they may occur, and on a pre-planned basis. For instance, we can go to Serpentine Court, we can go to Newton Lees, we can go to MK1, the town centre, and so on, including the religious and the faith locations as well. But that's just one of the options, and there are others. Can I open it up to other members now, please? Anyone want to come in? No one? Okay, then how do right, is that Ethan first?
Just a point of order from the clerk. The report that was shared, that's confidential, isn't it? Not your report, then health report. Yeah.
You're muted, Delia.
You're muted.
Many apologies. Yes, I'm not in a position to share the public health data that was shared with me, unfortunately. I've been asked not to do that, but I can confirm that the proposals around supporting the Bangladeshi community were based on the fact that we know that they are the most, within the South Asian ethnicity, the Bangladeshi community is the one that is most at risk in our area, and there is also a very close correlation between deprivation levels and ethnicity, and that was why we had been looking at some targeted spending in order to support the community that was most vulnerable.
So I noted some other groups, and but I think this isn't a lot of money. It's £10,000. We you know, it will be used up amongst the whole community really well. I think that we need to we need to work with our colleagues in public health and the CCG to understand what the target areas that need this support are and focus our attentions on that. That's my opinion.
Okay, Ed, then Ron.
Ethan, I think I completely agree with your last point. We're agreeing a lot tonight. I think, yeah, we need to be targeting this, and we need to be doing bespoke things to educate. And I think, especially as we come out of this, it's possibly also a bit about encouraging the vaccine as well. I wonder if that could be included. My concern with marshals is that they'll cost a lot of money, and there'll be a limited impact for maybe, I mean, how much have we got? We've got 10,000. I'm not going to even do the sums, but that's only going to last us a few weeks at most. And actually, I think the education elements may have a wider benefit. I haven't seen the report that you've mentioned, obviously, because it's not been shared for various reasons. I'll be interested in having a conversation with you and finding out a bit more on that. I'm also very concerned about how we would manage COVID marshals, and I would want to see it be tendered out properly. And I would want to see a formal decision on that. And I realise time is of the essence there, but also I would want to understand there's a few companies who we potentially go to, and I've heard one of them I've heard of. I'm a bit concerned about, and I'll be quite interested to understand how the management of that would work.
Okay, thank you, Ed. Can you take your hand down, Ed? Ron.
Yeah, thank you, Keith. Yeah, I agree with the other two councillors. You know, I think the money should be spent where needed. And I can't see us needing covert marshals as we're coming out of it pretty quickly, because by the time you get 3 or 4 companies to give you a price and give you an estimate and to go through all the rigmarole that they have to do legally to say they can do the job, it'll probably be over. You know, so I think the money, and we'll still have to pay somebody. So therefore, I think we should see where the money is actually needed and source the money that way. Thank you, Keith.
Thank you, Ron. Gary?
Thank you, Chair. I'm completely against, in terms of civil liberties, about COVID marshals and what they might do and how we have that responsibility and the governance over them. I think what has been suggested about if we just continue with, it's about education, and the government spending most of that money on the education side. And I think we're going to spend a lot of time going into a procurement for something that isn't going to be really necessary and is tremendously expensive. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Gary. Any other comments to come in? Can I say that my thoughts on it are, oh, sorry, Maria, I've done it again. I'm sorry. Carry on, over to you.
Thank you. All I wanted to say really was I agree with what everyone else has said, and I'm more concerned about doing COVID marshals, thinking they're more like security guards. It's not going to work. And I'd just rather you concentrate, like you just said, on the targeting areas where needs support and stuff like that, more than having marshals.
Okay, thank you, Marie.
Keith, 1 more minute, please.
One minute, Ethan. 1 minute. You keep on. That's twice you come in now. I can't. Anyone else want to come in first? Righto, Ethan, you're off.
So I'm just going to say, I think the word marshal is a really rubbish word, and obviously it's evoked some concerns from from council tonight. The word marshal has been used by the government, and it just appears in kind of all of the stuff. I actually think that when you look at some of the tasks that a marshal will do, it's actually about education. But I totally get that the word that is used, you have a vision of a security guard and of civil liberties. So I think it's really important that if that's the work that we want doing, that we are really clear about what a COVID marshal looks like in Bletchley and Fenny Stratford.
Thank you, Ethan. I must admit, I totally agree with that comment and those comments regarding the marshal. The name is, as you agree, I agree, totally wrong. But I think it's my view. My suggestion really was to use them to educate. To use for the distribution of leaflets at appropriate locations in languages that are appropriate for the site that they are in, and certainly not to be there to enforce regulations. They are there to inform, not enforce. That was one of the suggestions. There must be others. Gavin first, Ed second.
Can I just? Oh, sorry, Delia. I don't know if you want to speak.
Well, I was just going to say, I thought Councillor Cunham was second, but and I know she has to leave fairly soon. But and then it was Ed, according to the list.
Oh, right.
I was just going to quickly say that I'm going to put forward a proposal to carry up to option 1 on the agenda. So specifically continuing the partnership work with NHS, CCG and MK Public Health. That's basically just my proposal.
Right, thank you. Who was next? Was it?
It was Councillor Carnum.
I will second that proposal.
Thank you, Ed. Sorry, who was it coming? I missed
It was
that.
Aisha. It was Aisha next, I think.
Right,
and then
Aisha.
Councillor Hume.
Yeah, I agree with what Keith is saying about not enforcing regulation. How about we support what people are already doing in terms of the funding? Because I was part of the CCG group and I did some work with them, and what the data that DJ is talking about, obviously we can't share that because we're not allowed to, but some of the things that came out of it was to kind of support the Bangladeshi community, and not just the whole community, but it came up in the subject about the mosques because they're still operating and they're still open 5 days a week, 5 times a day, and on a Friday sometimes 8 times a day because they're doing it in three time slots. And it's about helping, supporting them, putting in the social distancing measures, helping them with sanitizers, masks. You know, they're not asking for money. They're saying they even refused the donation when the council proposed a £2,000 donation. They said they don't want it because they're not going to close, but they're willing to take anything or support them with the social distancing. So the hand sanitizers, it's basically giving them that support that we all need to kind of to keep the viruses down. And it has been proven that in the Bangladeshi community, the risk has been high because of all the things that Delia has mentioned. I have spoken to a few people in the Bangladeshi community, and they're very in favor, and they're saying if you support that, we'd be very happy to have that measures put in place, and we will comply with the regulations as we are complying, but we are running low on the things that we do have because the way they're operating 5 times a day, 8 times on a Friday. So, you know, I would like to propose that if we are going to support people in the community, then to support them with those things so that we can keep our community safe.
Okay, Ed, you've got your hand up. Do you want to come in?
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say, and I think we're moving away from this option. But if we do have COVID marshals, can we call them something different to the public in the town as COVID education officers, maybe? I don't like that phrase either, but it's much better than marshal.
No.
But I think actually, yeah, I support. I think Aisha, what you've said is really good, and I think it's important that actually we will continue to work with the CCG and the MK Public Health Team and those communities that are more affected, and respond to what actually they're saying they need, rather than just offering money, but actually responding to what their needs are. And if that's help with purchasing additional sanitizer and getting hold of that, or some education, then I'm sure we can use some of that funding for that. And I would, I think I seconded Gavin's proposal, and I think we also need to include something around officer. Well, we may not need to actually include this. Do we need to include anything about delegation to officers on this?
Well, I think it depends. It depends how soon you want to spend the money. I think if you're prepared to wait till the 9th of March, you don't need to give any delegated powers, because you can try and bring a report back on the 9th of March to agree on it, providing you're prepared to delegate it to the finance committee. We can make a decision on that day.
I think it should be delegated.
Can I just come in on this one? If we do delegate it to finance, don't forget that all members can attend that meeting and they can all speak. They can't all vote, but they can all speak. So although you're delegating it to a lower committee, you can have as much discussion on it as possible. Mo, did you want to come in?
Yes, please. Yeah, if you give me a minute. Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
All right. Okay, I agree with Asha because I think reason, because obviously I was always involved in these things. We can give to the community obviously with the mosque and supplying with the sanitizer and rest of the things, and that will help mosque, because obviously they're struggling. They're not getting any funds at the minute because there's no many people attending. especially older generation who actually donate money, they're not allowed to come to mosques. So younger people just pray and leave. So if you can help them, that'd be great help.
Okay, thank you. Gary?
Thank you, Chair. I'm aware that head teachers are suffering a lot with expenses in providing sanitizers. They're going through a lot of money at the moment, and they're also appealing for funds. So there are other groups that are having to spend a lot of money on materials out of their reserves, etc., for the schools. They're struggling with funds as well. So please consider the local schools. Thank you.
Well, I'm sure the vast majority of businesses in Bletchley are struggling for finances as well. So it's never ending. Look, we have a proposal on the table. I mean, is it worthwhile putting this item to finance, and for all the considerations that have been made tonight to be put through a report that Delia will do to the meeting on the 9th of March? Is that a way forward? Can I make a proposal then? I realise that it's slightly unusual because there's a proposal on the table. Can I just say that put a proposal that we do a report is prepared on the basis of tonight's suggestions to finance for them to be delegated to make a decision when all members can speak but can't vote. Ed, you wanted to come in.
Chair, can I just point out there is a prior proposal on the table from Councillor Bedford,
yeah,
and I think that should be voted on.
Yeah,
It was seconded, and I think that proposal was aimed towards continuing the partnership work with the CCG and Public Health, which is explained in the report. And as I say, there was a productive meeting about that yesterday, and I do think there are some ways that if we proceeded with the with making a contribution to the mosques, that perhaps more control could be exerted over the funding and the way it was used than we'd discussed previously. So I think that does merit further exploration, definitely. So I'd like to see that proposal voted on, please, in terms of in terms of standing orders.
Can you just remind me who proposed it and seconded it?
It was Councillor Bedford who proposed it, and I think it was Councillor Hume who seconded, from memory.
Okay, that's fine. Right, all those in favour? Right, and that I include myself. Those against? Can you take the hands down?
Yep. Down. You're down.
Right. Those against? Amen. 1, and I think there's no abstentions. I don't think. So that's carried. Okay. So having agreed that, can we now move to the point where I come now properly do it, not before, that we in fact delegate this matter to finance, with tonight's considerations being put into a report that Delia will prepare for that meeting on the 9th of March. Is there a seconder for that proposal? Don't all shout at once.
Sorry, Chairman, can I just ask a question?
Certainly.
What is on the proposal? Are we deferring the decision we've just made to Council, or is it what I think it is, which is the entirety of this report, including the COVID marshals or COVID champions, whatever you want to call them, for that to be considered by the Finance Committee?
Correct. But the proposal that's just been voted on forms part of that proposal overall. So the discussions can continue.
But I think I need clarity about the second proposal, please, because my understanding of the first proposal was that it was to progress the work in option 1 rather than option 2 or option 3. That was my understanding, and Councillor Bedford's nodding. So that was my understanding of the proposal.
Right. Okay. Meaning what?
Well,
there's no second proposal.
No, you could still delegate it to finance to make an ultimate decision, but
Right.
if you were then to approve a proposal to make a decision on all the options, that is a different proposal altogether. It's different from it's negating the first proposal.
Point of order, Dan.
No, I
Is
can't.
so the first motion is carried. What finance would be considering would be the other two options.
No, my understanding, and Councillor Bedford's the one who needs to speak on this, but my understanding was that what finance would be considering would be the spending of the money in line with the work that is being done under the partnership umbrella with the CCG and the public health, rather than the marshals. Rather than the marshals and the others. Am I right?
Yeah, that was my idea. So the idea was, my proposal was to continue partnering with NHS, CCG and MK Public Health. And then when I seconded it, I was under the assumption that the particularities of continuing to work with them would be delegated specifically to finance, if that makes sense.
Right. And that's been agreed.
Well, it's been voted on.
And that's
where I understood it, Kate. The way
okay.
Councillor Bedford said.
Look, sorry,
Okay.
the confusion is mine. My apologies, members. So that the remainder will be delegated to finance on the 9th. Yeah. Is that what you're understanding? Okay. Thank you. Then that concludes that item. Can we get the chair back, please?
We can try. I found it quite easy to put him in the waiting room.
Yeah,
not quite so straightforward to get him out
leave him there all
again.
night, couldn't we?
There he is.
Oh, he's back. Over to you, Chair.
Okay, thank you very much, Councillor Keith. Yes, so thank you very much for that. So we're moving on to item 13 on the agenda, to approve a policy for accepting exceptions of donations into the community orchard and allotments. Would anybody like to speak on this subject?
Bill's prepared this policy. I don't know if anyone's got any questions, if they'd like to ask them of Jill. I think the issue for council is to determine, do they want to accept memorial items? And if they do, is this policy acceptable? Yeah. But obviously, maybe a decision not to.
Councillor Keith Ely.
Well, I think the report is very comprehensive, Chair, and I support the idea of memorials, and I like, certainly as a starting point, accepting the recommendations within and suggestions within this report, Chair. Thank you.
Has anybody else got anything to say regarding this subject?
Oh, can I should add something? One of the options also is the councillors would be mindful, should they want to adopt this policy, as to which way do they want to go with regards to benches or the items. Do they want to go down sustainable wood, or do they want to go down the recycled route as well? So there were some examples of the sort of things you're looking at. So there's another decision to make should the policy be adopted. Okay,
Councillor Hume.
Yeah, I was just going to raise that, and I mean, I don't know what the advantages of the reclaimed wood or the recycled one in terms of. I think the recycled one is quite an interesting idea, and I really like it. What I wanted to say just on the benches is, can it? I mean, it can. I don't have an issue if it's different in different locations for the parish, but if all of the benches are in the community orchard, I think all of the benches should be the same. From an aesthetic point of view. But if you have benches in the orchard and then we put some benches somewhere else, let's say we put a bench on Newton's allotment, I'm not quite sure exactly how we would do that. But if we were to, then I wouldn't have an issue if it was a different type of bench. But as long as in that location there was the same sort of benches.
This policy would apply on any land that we own, either now or in the future. So it could be if we chose to buy some property somewhere or some land, it could be applied to anywhere. But yeah, currently we only have Newton Lee's allotments, the allotment sites, the orchard, and Newton Lee's Pavilion.
Okay, thank you very much, Councillor Hume. Anybody else would like to say anything? So, have we got a proposal? Councillor Eady.
Well, I think I'll put one forward, Chair. We accept the report as an interim proposal, and that we accept the recommendations and suggestions.
And I'll second that. So, all in favour? Well, I think that's everybody in favour. Can you put hands down for me, please?
Yep, all down.
Anybody against? Any abstentions? Thank you. That's carried. Moving on to item, well, I was going to move on to item 14. Can we skip to item 15 because we may go into confidential in item 14. So can we skip to item 15 first and then talk about item 14 afterwards? So we're going to item 15 to adopt the protocol for the town council for remote face-to-face meetings and discuss aspects of conduct at meetings. Can you elaborate a little bit more just for members, Delia?
Yes, certainly. This again was a recommendation from the Breakthrough Communications work that was done. One of the recommendations in the report on our communications was there was a sort of slew of recommendations on our digital communications, and one of them was to adopt a protocol for all meetings that were held online. And so I have prepared a draft protocol here, which is very much for you to amend, change, add to, but the proposal was that a protocol should be adopted, so I've prepared one for you to consider. The other thing is that I have been asked by a couple of the newer councillors to raise the issue of conduct of meetings and the fact that it can be difficult for them to get to speak at meetings. So I think, you know, the thought was it might be helpful to just have a general discussion about how meetings could be run or how behaviour could be at meetings to ensure that everybody got to say their piece really and felt heard.
I think that tonight's meeting has gone very well, and I think that most councillors have been able to express their views quite favourably and in an orderly fashion. Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Chairman. I think this is a really good protocol to use. The only thing that I think is missing is including within the protocol how we admit guests to the meeting. I think that we've had a very good introduction of how we've used YouTube for our meetings, and I'm sure that everyone has seen a meeting in the last week which was not managed so well. I think that if we are going to have guests or members of the public that are going to come in, it would be really good for them to be identified separately to councillors, so to be instructed that they must have their camera off until such time as the chair indicates it's their time to speak, and they can put their camera on to speak, and then after, you know, that part of the business is that they actually leave the meeting and are free to continue the meeting through YouTube. I just think we need to have really clear rules and around how people are in the meeting if it's taking place online to conduct council business. That's all from me.
Councillor Hume.
Yeah, I probably realise I'm one of the councillors who tend to speak a lot in meetings. But I certainly think in terms of the content, I think being able to use the hand raise feature is actually really, I think it's better than what we do when we were meeting physically, to be fair, because actually if you have the participants tab loaded, you can see in the order they've also raised as well. Although there is some flexibility in that, I suppose. I think this is really good. I'm pleased that the wording is not overly long. As if you ever go to a Milton Keynes Council meeting, you will be sat there for 10 minutes listening to the chair reading out every last little detail. Taking up valuable time. I'm also in support of all of Ethan's comments there. I think, yeah, I watched that meeting, and whilst some elements of it was hilarious, actually it was deeply worrying, and for that council who was already struggling, to have 85 members of the public in there causing havoc was just awful to watch.
Anyway. Yeah.
So I'll carry on. So I do think that's important. And I think we also just need to be careful about if we don't give the Zoom code out to everyone, we just give it out to the people the councillors. And I know you already do this, Delia. And if someone registers to speak, and being really clear that registering to speak needs to be done in advance, and we already are. So I think there is some good things there, and I think this is really good. And I also think we possibly should also adopt a similar sort of reminder in fiscal council meetings whenever we get there again.
I think that, you know, for our council, most of the time we're quite good. I welcome the some of the proposals from Councillor Wilson and Councillor Hume. I think we also had protocols ourselves where we give councillors, and I think, enough time to speak, and that's just got to be managed in a more better way. I think tonight it's been very good. 3 minutes is quite a long time to speak, but if we can sort of like adopt that as part of the strategy moving forward, the hand signals have been working very well. So, you know, I'm quite happy to support that. Councillor Haynes.
Yeah, I support most of it. The only thing I'm not quite happy with, as these are public meetings, when you have a member of the public speaking, we always give them the choice they can either leave if they want to or stay. And I believe you shouldn't say, well, you've said your bit, you can go now. I don't believe we should say that to them. We should still give them the option, because they might find something else further down the list that's interesting to them, or something that they didn't know nothing at all about, you know. But they should have the option whether to stay or go by themselves, not say, well, you said your bit, thank you very much, good night. You know, I don't think that's fair and that's right. Thank you, Chair.
Do you want to come back on that?
Yeah, just to say that when we do explain to people who are speaking that we will that they'll be free to continue watching the meeting on YouTube afterwards. That's the way we do it at the moment. I explain to people before the meeting that when they've had their when they've done their speaking, that we will ask them to leave the meeting. But I mean, that's just the way we've done it. If council wants to do it differently, then so be it. But the problem is that if someone stays and they don't exercise the discipline that the councillors exercise, it can be difficult to manage that person's participation. So that's why we do it the way we do it, just to keep the meeting secure, really.
Okay, so I propose that we adopt the protocols for the town council and approve it. Is there any extra wording, Councillor Wilson, you wanted to add to that, or Councillor Hume?
Just that that the clerk is authorised to add some further information to the public speaking session, and how I'm putting some more guidance around how public speakers act, so it's really clear to the public that these people are not councillors. That's what I'm just trying to add, because we just see all these screens, and
I think it'd be good if the councillors can put CLOR at the beginning of their name. I mean, it comes up quite clearly that some people, you know, are just their name, and some people are councillors. You can see that definition straight away. The clerk's got clerk beside her name. Do you know what I mean? So I think that'd be quite good if all the councillors can put something in front of their names to distinguish themselves as councillors. Delia.
I was just going to say I can add to the protocol with the existing arrangements that we have for speakers if you're happy with the existing arrangements.
Yeah.
But if you're minded to follow Councillor Haynes' proposal that guests be allowed to stay in the meeting, then I need to know that so that I can add to the protocol appropriately.
Councillor MacDonald.
Right, having trouble, so I don't know if you can hear me.
Yes, we can.
Yeah, I might have to leave the meeting in a minute, but about putting names up there, I've got no control because the way I log in is I send a link to my personal laptop because it's easier to work from. So is that able to be done remotely once I've logged in?
Yes, I'm just going to do it now.
It's not worth it now because I've got such a bad disruption. I'm only picking up half the conversation.
Yeah, we can do it. We can do it for you.
Right. Okay. Cool. There we go. There we go. Anyway, I'm going to have to leave the meeting at this point as well. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mike.
Okay, so are we happy to adopt, like I said, I propose to adopt the protocols for the Town Council. Any seconders? Councillor Hume. All in favour? Can you, is that?
That's carried, I think, but I think there are some abstentions or votes.
If you put all the hands down for me, please, and anybody against? Anybody against?
No.
And any abstentions? Ron Haynes.
That's carried.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, moving back on, this is the last item for the evening. To receive a report of George Street Community Centre and to consider the next steps, including any additional expenditure on interior of the building. Because there are some financial reports in this report, I suggest we go into confidential if councillors mind to go into confidential session.
Can you just take a vote on that, please, Chair?
All in favour of going to confidential?
That's carried.
Yeah.
Put your hands down for me, Jill. Anybody against? Any abstentions? So, Councillor Hume, abstention?
Yeah, sorry, can I just make a point of order? I did just have my hand up before we went in there. Actually, having a look, I mean, okay, it does contain confidential information, and we may well talk about it, so that's fine. But I just think we just need to, finance information is something that we should be sharing, but information about quotations. And
yeah, well, that's the whole point. That's the whole
applications. That's what I was looking for.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Thank you very much.